It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you with us on this Wednesday edition of the show. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes, as we do every day. We'll try and fit it all in somehow. We have a Wild Card Wednesday, the premiere of Wild Card Wednesday on the show. Surprise guest will join us in segment 4. We're going to do this every Wednesday. I know who's it going to be. Who's it going to be? Nick Ferguson will hang out with us coming up in about 20 minutes or so. Get some thoughts with him on the NFL and the Broncos getting their first win, and Bo Nix looking really good, and a great win on the road in Tampa Bay. We'll talk to him about that. And we start things out in the NFL. Sam Yarnell is here with those 3 tufts of hair.
Okay, all right. I knew you were going to bring that up.
It's just like, there it is.
Okay, so a little behind the curtain here. Jason and I, before the show every day, we have our little pre-show meeting where we should be doing production, but usually we just talk about politics and funny pictures that we saw on the internet overnight. And I was trying to fix it the whole time, and I was like, all right, I might have it. You see, when I fix it like that, it wants to stay for a second, and then it just starts to drift down, and it'll just keep going, and I'll get animated, and then there it goes. So
I might start
we'll battle
taping.
through it, but adversity is what we were built for on the Sports Wrap.
I might start taping the pre-show meeting every day. I might have to do that. We can put it on YouTube or something. All right, let's get it started in the NFL, Sam, and talk about the drama in Dallas. Shocker! Water is wet, and there's drama in Dallas with the Cowboys, and it only took 3 games. 1, 2, 3 games. It only took 3 games for the Cowboys to start having some drama. They're 1-2. After an impressive Week 1 win, they have looked awful. Both sides of the ball. Only with a fourth quarter rally against the Ravens did they manage to make that game close. And some people could look at that and say, hey, some of that might have just been Baltimore taking their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Certainly Lamar Jackson thought that. If you listen to the post-game comments, he was like, Coach, why aren't we still just putting it, going full throttle here? So you got CeeDee Lamb going at it on the sidelines with Dak Prescott. And you can see the still of it there. And then you've got CeeDee Lamb apologizing for his behavior on the sideline and the way he played in the game on Sunday. What are we to make of the Cowboys this early in the season? Can this thing still be salvaged, Sam Yarnell? I say yes. I do think it can be salvaged. I think this can be a rallying point, an early one, albeit here in the season. But I think the Cowboys will be fine.
Interesting. They've been a mess.
And by fine,
so far.
I mean, a 9-win, 10-win team that makes the playoffs.
So, but here's the thing, right? Like you said, their 1 win was impressive. Over the weeks, that win has only gotten less and less impressive. Because here's the deal. They let the Cleveland offense potentially... the most anemic offense in football? No, that's probably the Steelers. But one of the bottom 5 offenses in football score 17 points on them. And, it was impressive, sure, at the very beginning of the season that they put up 33 points on that Cleveland defense. But that Cleveland defense this season, I'm sorry, folks, hasn't been anything to write home about through 3 weeks. So, and then you come back in week 2, put up 19 points against the Saints in a rout. And then this last week, sure, you made the game with Baltimore close at the end, but that was a lot of garbage time offense from the Cowboys, and it was more the Ravens choking it away or trying their best to than the Cowboys actually performing. So if I'm the Cowboys right now, panic button on the table. I'm not looking at it yet, but it's on the table. It's in the room for sure.
I'll tell you why. I would have, if there's an argument, I could argue both sides of anything. I'm like an attorney. I can argue that it's about to get really bad. I can argue they're 1-2 right now and can conceivably be 2-4 through the first 6 weeks if you start to look at the schedule, which is why I'm baffled. Their win total right now is 9.5 on FanDuel with juice to the over at 118. Juice to the under on at minus 148. Plus 118 if you want to go over 9.5, which kind of tells you which way the odds makers are leaning right now on it. But you look at their schedule after the Giants this week, which is a road game.
I was gonna say I like New York this week, especially with the number that books are hanging out there.
4.5, I think was the last I saw.
I saw it bet up to 5.
But they're on the road against Pittsburgh. Then they're home for the Lions, at the Niners, at the Falcons. Like they could be 2-6 through 8 games, Sam. Like there is a bye for them in between that Lions and 49ers game. They could be 2-6 through 8 games. And you could be talking about Mike McCarthy out of a job if they're 2-6 through 8 games, by the way.
All right. Let's break this down from a fundamental standpoint.
Oh, I'm going to get fundamentals. There you go.
So that game tomorrow, that game against the Giants is tomorrow in New York. We'll be breaking it down here on the SportsWrap tomorrow. I'm sure in odds and ends, I'll be giving all my best bets. Yeah. Dak Prescott to
Nobody
throw a pick.
cares. Give me your fundamentals.
Probably going to be there.
God.
All right. They got a long week going into the Steelers game. That Steelers game is the ultimate spot where we're going to know what this Dallas team really is. They have a long week. Their offense is supposed to be prolific. They're going to go into what has probably been the best defense in the NFL to date this season.
And get squashed.
It's going to be a very interesting game, Jason, but I really think, again, fundamentally, that game decides Dallas's season.
I got to be honest. I think they're in a world of trouble just looking at their schedule. Like, I didn't realize how bad their schedule was. 2-6. They're gonna be they could easily be 2-6. Even if you want to make it, if you want to be nice and say 3-5 through 8. Where are you going at that point?
So I know Stephen A. said it yesterday.
Oh God,
Jason, let me ask you.
Yeah.
Where do they have to get to for the phone to ring for Bill Belichick?
I think 2-6.
Really?
Oh, God, yeah. Heck, if they lose to the Giants this week, I think that conversation heats up.
I think if they're 1-4, Mike McCarthy's out and Bill Belichick is getting that call.
I mean, if there was a candidate for an in-season coaching move, it is the Cowboys, because they're paying so much for Dak and Lamb, and the window with this group being where it is. Contender Pretender, our first edition of it, is next. Coming up in 10 minutes, Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety with the Broncos, amongst other teams. Get some thoughts with him on Denver after getting their first win. Our spirits high in the Mile High City. Continue the conversation with Sam Yarnell. Week 4 in the NFL about to get going, and that means it's time for our first edition of Contender Pretender. 3 contenders from me and Sam, 3 pretenders from Sam and I. I apparently will get it started this week, and I will do so, Sam Yarnell, with my contenders. The New York Jets. Simple. After looking sluggish in a Week 1 loss on the road against the 49ers, to say the least, they have rebounded in a big way over their last 2 home games. Granted, is against the Sisters of the Poor in some way. But the Jets offensively look like a team that, given their defense and how good and how strong and how much that defense is going to be able to stymie opposing teams. And I think that defense gets better this year because they're actually not going to be on the field every minute of the game. Love what I've seen out of Aaron Rodgers through the first 3 games. Jets have to be a contender for a division title, if not more certainly a playoff spot, which is what we thought they would be early in the season, before the season started. The Steelers, if you've listened to the show so far, you know I am high on Pittsburgh. I think they can do something special with this team because I think it is a special type of defense. We were talking about this earlier in the week, Sam, this idea of whether or not they have that kind of defense that could survive being an average at best offensive team. And who knows, that offense might still improve as the season goes along. And they have something that teams in this league would kill for. And that is two guys that can start at quarterback. Like two real starting quarterbacks. Think what you want about Russell Wilson. If things go off the rails with Justin Fields, it's a nice insurance policy to have a guy that's a borderline Hall of Famer when his career is done in Russell Wilson. So I will go with the Steelers as my number 2 contender. Number 3, it's got to be the Vikings. I mean, look, who saw this coming before the season started? As much as I love what Sam Darnold is doing, go and get a bet on him for MVP, by the way. I think he's at like 28-1 still. Love what the Vikings are doing defensively more than anything. So the Vikings, my number 3 contender. All right, pretenders. Look, Indianapolis is... Man, we have not spent enough time talking about the fact that Anthony Richardson has not looked good at quarterback. I'll even go as far as to say as Doug Gottlieb, who's not necessarily the guy you think of for football analysis, tweeted the other day, that he doesn't even really look like an NFL quarterback right now. I love him. I think he's athletic. Maybe he'll grow into the role. But right now, what I'm seeing out of Anthony Richardson, not impressing me enough to think that they are a contender, certainly for the division. They may not even be a wild card team at this point. The Saints, you heard me right. The Saints. Look what they did the first 2 weeks. Oh my God, the Saints offense. Well, they played a real team in Philadelphia at home. Couldn't do anything offensively in that game. The Saints, beyond anything other than a wild card, are a pretender. The Chargers, they can't keep their quarterback healthy. We go through this every year. And poor Jim Harbaugh, this is not like the college football days where your quarterback goes down and you've got another, blue chip star waiting behind him. Some 19-year-old who's ready to go in there and tear up the town. It doesn't work that way. And you can't run the football every single play in this league. Teams will get smart to it. The Chargers, despite being 2-1, are a pretender. Sam Yarnell, the floor is yours.
All right, Jason, I'll fly right through this. My contenders, obviously, will start with the Buffalo Bills. Why? They've looked like the best team in football. 2 of their 3 games have ended with their starting quarterback in a baseball cap because they've scored so many more points than their opponent that Mitch Trubisky got snaps. So that's great to see him getting more snaps in the NFL. The Bills are a juggernaut this year, and I really don't think that anyone right now could stop them. Then again, playoffs don't start tomorrow. My next contender, the Green Bay Packers. Why? Because even without Jordan Love, this team has showed us that they're capable of winning games. I talked about it earlier this week on the show. Coaching this season, specifically in the NFL, is so valuable. And Matt LaFleur has shown us up in Green Bay that he has such a dynamic offense, and they've designed it in such a way that you really can plug and play with a guy like Malik Willis when a guy like Jordan Love goes down. Not saying Malik Willis is better by any stretch of the imagination, but you know what I mean. That offense has shown us they can still be successful. My other contender, just like Jason, the Minnesota Vikings, but I'll go for a different reason. The defense has been extraordinary this year. I talked about it yesterday on the show. Brian Flores is an incredible addition to this team, and Kevin O'Connell has done a great job in terms of coaching up that Vikings team, even with the loss of Kirk Cousins, and I do think that we are going to have to start to change the way we look at Kirk Cousins. All right, with my pretenders, I went a little bit of a different route. I think these are all teams that are just not going to live up to what we expected them to this year. I'll start with the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, something we talked about on the show on Tuesday. A no 0-3 team has won the Super Bowl since 1979 in the Super Bowl era. 6 teams have made the playoffs after starting the season with that record. I think the Bengals probably can be the 7th. They can sneak into a wild card berth in what might be a 3 playoff team division again this year. But I don't think that they're Super Bowl contenders. I think that something's off in Cincinnati. I also think something's off in San Francisco. Listen, I know the injury bug has bitten that team harder than probably any other team in the NFL to date this season. Maybe the Rams a little bit harder than San Francisco, but nevertheless, the Niners are incredibly injury bitten. they still haven't looked like the offense that we're accustomed to seeing with them. And also, I know you can't count on injuries, but if they can't recover from these injuries, it's going to be a very long season for Niners fans. My last pretender, Jason, the team we just talked about in the last segment, the Dallas Cowboys. What is going on in Jerry World? They can't play defense. The offense doesn't look great either. I don't know what to make of this Cowboys team. I think they legitimately could miss the playoffs altogether, and I think the Washington Commanders could make it. You'll notice I didn't leave the Kansas City Chiefs on either of my lists. Why? They haven't shown me enough to be on either of these lists this year. That team relies so heavily on Patrick Mahomes, and he's looked pedestrian so far to start the season.
You know what they've shown me? They can win. They're 3-0. They're 3-0. I mean, come on. And they're not even playing their best football. Let's see what Nick Ferguson thinks about all of this and more. Oh, I get the last word. Nick Ferguson will join us next. SportsWrap continues on this Wednesday. Keep the conversation to the NFL. Always happy to bring in our friend Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety. And as Sam Yarnell told me, I have to say, former Buffalo Bill Nick Ferguson. Even though everybody knows you're more with the Broncos, he said, I have to say, former Buffalo Bill Nick Ferguson.
Okay, we'll let that ride for now.
See, the next he wanted to be in the conversation today. I said, "Yeah, you sit this one out, Sam." Let's talk about the Broncos, who are coming up. I mean, look, they ruined my weekend. We'll just say that. We thought the Broncos were going to go into Tampa Bay and get smashed, and they did the smashing. I mean, let me ask you just in terms of the game, Nick. Let me ask you just in terms of the game. Is it that Tampa Bay didn't have the personnel to match up with what Denver was doing? Or were they just failing to make adjustments? Because good teams adjust. And I didn't see the Buccaneers adjusting to anything the Broncos were throwing at them in this game.
It's a combination of both things. Remember, going into the game defensively, Antoine Winfield Jr., arguably one of the better safeties in the league, he did not play because of injury. Now, let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. They had so many players on the offensive line, starting offensive line, injured. So they were playing with somewhat of a makeshift offensive line, and then Vita Vea on the defensive side, he wasn't in the game. So it ties your hand if you tie Bowles as far as what you want to do. And watching the game and watching Baker Mayfield just kind of run around, not run around making plays, run around for his life, made it really difficult when you think about the fact that you look at Mike Evans. How much was he involved in the offense? And you know, granted, he's facing off against PS2, one of the better corners in the league, so it made it difficult for them. And now you're talking about a Bucs team the week before was sacked 5 times, and they were 2 for, I believe, 10 on third down. Now, you do that, and you're more healthy in week 2 against the Detroit Lions, and week 3, you're going into a game against a Denver Broncos team who are starving for their first win because they know teams that go 0-3 usually don't make the playoffs. And I'm not saying that the Broncos will make the playoffs, but it was a desperation win that the Broncos pulled out. And now I add this, JP. Sean Payton did something that I've never seen Sean Payton do. He kind of acquiesced to his quarterback. The biggest thing that we saw here in Denver was there was too much changing of the personnel groupings. Guys were not able to get into a rhythm. But then he kind of stopped that. We saw pre-snap motion, which we've never really seen from a Sean Payton's offense. And they decided to get their number 1 wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, involved early. Now, are these signs of things to come? I hope so, because what we're seeing from Vance Joseph's defense, if you are able to move the ball down the field and score like the Broncos did, the defense will definitely back you up.
Nick, it's an elite defense. And I don't think that's a surprise if people have watched this team. All you've ever asked for, if you're a Broncos fan, is a capable offense. You don't need to be, the Cincinnati Bengals that we saw on Monday night, where you're scoring every time down the field. You don't need to be. Just be competent on the offensive side of the ball, and you're going to give your team a chance to win. Isn't that sort of the formula here?
Yeah, it is the formula, but still understanding everything, kind of rides with the quarterback and Bo Nix. And so far this season, the offense didn't have any chemistry, like rhythm. They couldn't run the ball. But if you can't run the ball with your running backs, guess what? You can run the ball with your quarterback. And that's what he is doing. And I'm glad to see Bo pulling the play, whether it's call or he's doing it by himself, because these are the things that we saw when he was a member of the Oregon Ducks and Auburn Tigers. Move your quarterback, get them off their mark, allow them to make plays either with their arms and their feet. Like I said, I hope this is a sign of things to come, because if it is, it's going to play right in the hands and the skill set of one Bo Nix.
He looked really confident to me. That was the one thing in watching that team, because I watched almost that entire game on Sunday, was just his level of calm and confidence. And maybe that comes from, actually playing in college for more than 5 minutes. But to me, what I came away most impressed with was just his level of calm on the road in a tough spot. That's what I came away with. What was the biggest takeaway from week 2 to week 3 with you for Knicks?
Well, you're absolutely right. He seemed really calm in the pocket. And granted, Tampa Bay is not Seattle where it's that loud. Let's be totally honest. And there was a host of Broncos fans in the stands to really help him out. But the thing goes back to the quarterback, being able to find a wide receiver, deliver the ball on time and rhythm. And the Broncos offensive line did a good job, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't mount any pressure at all.
Yeah.
And that helped them out. But here's the thing. It's like you have to cater to your quarterback. And that's what Sean Payton actually did this season. Let's go out there and let's throw some rhythmic passes. And for the first time this season, there was a concerted effort to get Courtland Sutton involved with the offense right away. I think he had about 11 targets. He pulled in about 7 of those. So every quarterback needs somewhat of a security blanket. The Broncos have yet to get the tight end position going. So Courtland Sutton was the mainstay, and they got him involved early.
Nick, different animal this week, going into the Meadowlands, or whatever they call it, MetLife Stadium, going to New Jersey and taking on a Jets team that, from a defensive standpoint, is going to throw all sorts of stuff at Bo Nix that he probably hasn't seen in his NFL career. Give me some thoughts on just how they stay in that game and not let it get away early. We know how well the Jets have looked over the last 2 weeks. Granted, not against the greatest competition, but still, this is a tough spot. You got a minute. Go.
Yeah, this is another revenge game. You remember what happened in the offseason, what was said about Nathaniel Hackett, and of course Aaron Rodgers didn't play in that game. Zach Wilson did. So this is going to be a different environment from the one the Broncos face in Tampa. It's going to be loud, and they're going to hear Jets, 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 Jets. They're going to have to find a way to stop Quentin Williams. And once again, the front for the Jets are not the same front that they faced last week against Todd Bowles. I know this defense because I know Robert Saleh. I'm not going to give out any schemes, any game plans, but it is a defense that you can attack. But this is going to be possibly I was going to say low-scoring game, but it's going to be a little difficult for the Broncos to muscle points against this defense, especially if you have a healthy Aaron Rodgers. You're going to try to find ways to attack your defense.
It's going to be very low-scoring. The total right now in Vegas, by the way, 38.5. Nick Ferguson, we've mentioned Buffalo. He played for them. We mentioned the Jets, and we mentioned the Broncos. We got it all in. Thank you, Nick Ferguson. Always appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
See you later.
We're coming back with more Sports Wrap Wild Card Wednesday next. All right, it's Wednesday. Starting a new segment on the show this week. Wednesdays will be now known as Wild Card Wednesdays. One surprise guest on the show. Something that doesn't necessarily fit with everything else that's going on. This week, for Wild Card Wednesday, even though we are still many weeks away from the start of the NBA season, although it'll be here before you know it, our friend Kurt Heelan drops by the show. Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is his jam. Kurt, congrats. You are the first guest for Wild Card Wednesday.
I'm excited and honored, and I hate to do this to you. We're a month out from the start of the NBA season. Like
Like regular season games? Is that what
regular
you're
season
saying?
games start October 22nd. We're about a month out, man. It's crazy. But if you want to talk football, I'm ready. I've got my UCLA gear on, and I'm going Saturday to the traditional Big Ten showdown between UCLA and Oregon.
Big Ten. I know, it's just crazy. College football is so upside down right now. We actually got a great topic we're going to talk about in the next segment with Sam on this NIL thing with this kid from UNLV who basically walked out on the program because they didn't pay him what they promised. Like, it's nuts that this stuff is happening right now.
That was coming somewhere at some point. So,
Well, hopefully it's the impetus for somebody to step in and do something.
yeah,
Because it's just the Wild West right now in college sports with NIL and all that good stuff. All right. Talk to me about Kawhi Leonard, because I have to be honest, when I saw this on my X timeline or X feed yesterday, I actually thought it was a joke. I was like waiting for the punchline, and I hit like the see more tab, and it was like, no, this is real. Kawhi Leonard really is questionable to be ready for the start of the season. What the hell is going on?
yeah. It's the chronic knee thing that's been going. Like, and here's the thing: the last time he played a game was during the playoffs last. Remember, he only played 2 of the 6 games they had against the Mavericks. He missed games. I saw him at USA camp where, he was going to be on Team USA. Looked good the first day, and by the second day, they're already scaling him back, and they don't have him in all the scrimmages because he's not moving fluidly. He's not moving all that well after a hard day of work. Soon they send him home. They bring in Derek White, that whole thing. Now we're going to go all the way to October, and we're not sure he's going to be ready yet. This is beyond mildly concerning. Like, I don't give betting advice on your show, but like if you were going to bet the Clippers to win it all, just donate that money to charity where it's going to do some good, because it's now all James Harden with Kawhi when he can play.
Yeah, and that is the most puzzling thing here is I don't know how as an organization, and I feel like we've asked this question every year for the last few years with fill in the blank, whatever team Kawhi is on. How do you as an organization plan? How do you for Ty Lue and these guys? I don't know how you do it. I really don't.
Look, they made their run with this group. Paul George leaving, to me, was the end of them as a contender. And their GM, and president and whatever, Lawrence Frank yesterday, essentially said, like, I've got the internet. I know what people think and where we stand. We think we can surprise people. But he wouldn't say, like, hey, we're a contender. We're a threat to win it all, because he's realistic and he kind of knows where things are at. Honestly, Jason, if they weren't moving into a brand spanking new arena that they've got to show off a little this season, I think you would have seen more of a sell. I think you'd see them thinking, how do we retool and rebuild this thing? But new arena, they want to show things off a little bit. So they're gonna for a couple of years roll out the guys and see what it looks like, and I think then have to pivot, because this team is too expensive to be a team that, man, maybe can make the play-in.
As training camps and preseason games start to kick off, what are you most looking forward to or keeping an eye on or zoning in on?
I think there's a lot of players under pressure this year. We've been writing about teams under pressure, like Trae Young. DeJounte Murray's gone. Is he ready to step up? Is he the guy who led them to the conference finals 2 years ago? Or is he the guy that he didn't get traded this summer, Jason, because there was more value for DeJounte Murray around the league, like flat out. So which guy is he? And I wrote a story today on the Bucks. I mean, Jason, is their window closed? Is this the last year they can do it?
Might be.
I mean, Giannis is Giannis, but Damian Lillard's coming off a down year. He's 34, and these aging point guards, it's undersized aging point guards. It's not a great tradition. And then Chris Middleton had surgery on both ankles this offseason. Like, it's just, you go down, Brook Lopez is 36. Like, I feel like if they can't pull it all together and things don't break their way this season, I don't know what happens going forward, and I can tell you a lot of teams around the league have their eye on Giannis in this situation just because.
I only have a minute here. Let me ask my obligatory Knicks question. Isaiah Hartenstein leaves in the offseason, obviously. They couldn't keep him. Mitchell Robinson, they're going to baby him because they really don't want to rush him coming back.
No.
What are the Knicks doing in the middle in the interim?
How do you feel about Jericho Sims? Like, I honestly think they're. I honestly think they're gonna be,
does Tom Thibodeau even know who he is?
Yeah, we might see some Julius Randle at the 5, but I think ultimately they're going to have to go get another center, and there's some guys available. You could probably get Nick Claxton at the deadline, bring some defense and athleticism. Clint Capella is available now. They're probably going to have to do something, use some of their picks and some guys lower on the roster, because that is a huge gap in a conference where you've got to deal with not only the Celtics, but Joel Embiid in the paint. Like, if you're going to be who you think you are, you're eventually going to need some bulk down there.
Can they peel away Dwight Howard from Dancing with the Stars and maybe plug him in the middle?
Dwight Howard's not even playing in Taiwan anymore, but sure, bring him in. That'll go well.
He can do the foxtrot before the game. It'll be great.
Hey, look, more Dwight Howard in the NBA is good for you and me as content people.
Absolutely. More Kurt Heelan is always a good thing. Kurt Heelan, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. I appreciate my friend. Be well. We'll talk soon.
I look forward to it, man.
Something to consider is next. We roll along on this Wednesday edition of the show. Odds and ends in 10 minutes. All right, Sam Yarnell. Time for something to consider. Now, I had originally planned to talk about Brett Favre's Parkinson's announcement yesterday in something to consider. He made that disclosure to Congress on Tuesday. And then something bigger came along. Sorry, Brett. What's Brett Favre doing in our living room? So let's talk about this very interesting story out of where else but where I am, Las Vegas, where you've got the quarterback of UNLV deciding, hey, you know what, I'm good. We're undefeated. We're one of the nice stories of the college football season early on, but I don't think I want to play here anymore. And the reason why? The almighty dollar. Sam Yarnell, the almighty dollar. So this is a curious story. Nobody's officially said it's about the money, but everybody's pretty much intimated that it's about the money. There's been hinting that it's an NIL matter, but UNLV starting quarterback Matthew Sluka said he will not play any more games this season for the undefeated Rebels. And his quote is, because certain representations were not being upheld by the program. If there is anything, and look, maybe college football needs this, Sam. Maybe there needs to be this big of a situation where you have an undefeated team and their starting quarterback walking because of money, for Congress, somebody to get involved in this and say, okay, this is not sustainable. And this might be the case study for that, when you have the starting quarterback basically walking away from the team because he's not getting paid.
This is one of 5 teams in the greater 5 that's undefeated right now. I mean, if this doesn't show you that money talks more than anything, this team had a 16% chance to make the college football playoff this year. I mean that's ridiculous. He's walking away from it because of a matter of a little money, right? It's
easy unless it's your money.
To each their own, and I get it, but I think that there's a different, even in the age of NIL, right? And as much as we want to compare college sports to pro sports, there is a different, more professional way you can go about this other than redshirting to try and get more money next year on a better NIL contract or whatever. Why don't you play out the season on this team that is performing way above expectation with a schedule that honestly isn't all that hard with heading the rest of the way out with a real chance at the college football playoff, become one of the best stories in America, enter the transfer portal and expose that you were really mistreated from NIL, get an extra NIL deal with some organization promoting NIL deals. There's such a better way to go about doing this kind of thing. I just can't get all the way there on redshirting this year. Yeah. And then obviously planning to enter the portal because now he's still got to go to school there.
Yep. And look, the reality is he still has another year of eligibility and he'll obviously use it. Here's the thing for me. Let's put aside from the NIL standpoint and all the mess that is that something like this can now happen in college football. He's basically going to be a holdout, because he's not getting paid what he wants to get paid. This guy was 21 of 48 passing for 318 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an interception in 3 games. He's not exactly tearing up the town. 39 carries, 286 yards. He's been okay. They still have enough time with the Mountain West conference schedule. They have Fresno State this week. It's either going to be Haj Malik Williams or Cameron Friel that becomes the starting quarterback now. They were, right on the fringe of the top 25. I think they were just a few points behind Boise State for 25th in the polling. Realistically, what were they? We still don't really know. And they're
Jason, he's their leading rusher.
I get it.
He does everything for this team.
Does everything.
He is the reason they are 3-0.
He does everything okay. And like I said, we'll find out how valuable he is. If they go out there and thump Fresno State this week, a lot of people are going to say good riddance. That's just the reality of it. But to me, it calls to mind though the fact that somebody has to step in here. And I still don't see anybody that has the will to address this problem as it relates to NIL and how it's managed, that you just can't have guys walking off because they're not getting paid what they were supposed to get paid. And look, I get it now. We live in this NIL world where guys have a value, and this guy was told one thing, and then something completely different came to pass, and I guess he played the only card he could. He gave it a few games, and now he decides to walk. But this is a bad precedent that's being set here.
The Matthew Sluka situation is going to change the landscape. I
hope you're right.
Of NIL in college football.
I hope you're right.
It has to.
He's going to ruin it for everybody. He's going to ruin it for everybody.
You just had a team ranked in the top 30 lose their entire offense, their best player, because of an NIL fallout 3 games into a season. Now he's taking the rest of the season off. The NCAA has to step in.
What are they going to do?
We've reached that point.
I don't know what they're going to do. I hope it does provide the impetus for something. I just don't know what that is. Odds and ends around the corner, WNBA. A little baseball, too. Another team punching its ticket for the postseason. Next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby. But before we do, a reminder, make sure to check out Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Anything you miss from the show, it's right there every day. At your fingertips, whenever you want it. Subscribe today. Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and a whole bunch more. Sports Wrap Weekends, also available on many of these same affiliates. If not, look for it in your area. All right, without any further delay, Sam Yarnell, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell, the Liberty and Aces, both moving on in the WNBA postseason. They will meet up in the conference, or I should say the WNBA playoff semifinals, because they don't really have conferences. The Liberty taking care of the Aces last night behind Sabrina Ionescu's 36 points and 9 boards. That's it. Not for nothing. Can I just get on my soapbox for a second? Fans around the league are into these games. Can I tell you one place where fans do not get into the games, and it drives me nuts. Like, I'm watching this game last night, and fans at Barclays Center are like all jacked up and into the game. It's like a real New York sports crowd. The Connecticut Sun fans, get off of your asses. Like, seriously. I am so tired of every time I turn on a Connecticut Sun game, it's the PBS crowd. It's the PBS crowd. You see me on Wax TV in Connecticut. It's the PBS crowd. I've said this for years, even when I was a sports radio host there. They sit on their butts. They don't stand for anything. It's like they're counting the seconds till they can get out of the arena and go back into the casino and press the slot machine buttons. Like, it's so bad. You know, and I love the fact that Connecticut's one of the success stories of the WNBA, but I have to wonder how long it is before that franchise winds up somewhere else, because the atmosphere when you watch Connecticut Sun games is terrible. All right, I'm done.
Wait.
Yeah.
So the paid attendance at Monday night's Fever Sun game, Caitlin Clark in the building.
Be careful, because it's a small arena.
I understand that. Do you know what? I'm about to.
9,000?
No offense. No, 8,000 and change.
Close to a
Almost
sellout.
9.
Yeah, it's close to a sellout.
You know what the attendance was at the Liberty game last night?
12,000.
Not even 11,000.
Yeah, they fill the lower bowl. That's kind of on par for them.
I mean, Jason, that's about the same amount of people.
Yes, and it's much louder and much more enthusiastic. It's got a better vibe to it. It's New York, though. That shouldn't surprise any of us. I'll tell you what, there'll be crowds for that playoff semifinal series against the Aces, though. You can believe in that. You know, WNBA Finals rematch. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of people at those games. I still haven't been to an Aces game, and I live out here in Las Vegas. By the way, not featured because she always gets short shrift on this show. Asia Jones, or Asia Wilson rather, and the Aces a winner last night, so they move on in their quest for a three-peat. Yes, sir.
Hold on. Getting breaking news. The interns are passing me notes. And this is a soliloquy I wanted to have on Monday and forgot to. Shame on the WNBA.
Shame.
Caitlin Clark's first career playoff game.
Yeah.
A chance for the WNBA to be the marquee thing in sports that day. A schedule that was made months in advance.
Yeah,
months in advance. When is it? It's on a Saturday in September when the NFL is on, and then
or a Sunday.
And then
Sunday.
I'm sorry, a Sunday.
Yeah,
I was thinking Saturday college football.
Sorry.
Sunday. And then, to make matters worse, what is game one of the WNBA semifinals, which is a rematch from last year's WNBA finals, the probably most marquee series in the WNBA playoffs to date? Oh, right. It's Sunday, September 29th, when the NFL is on. Come on, WNBA. We got to do better than this.
Well, they're also up against it because now the NBA training camps are starting. You have NHL, you've got NHL, you've got NHL. I know.
One day.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm sure there are some scheduling
Jason, if
conflicts.
you make it Monday at 7 o'clock, everyone tunes in before Monday Night Football.
I hear you. That one tuft of hair of Sam's was actually screaming alongside him. Major League Baseball, the Astros punched their ticket for the postseason. They beat the Mariners last night. Kudos to Houston because they started off so bad this year. Oh, Jason Hayward hit one that's still going. Back-to-back games for, with home runs, by the way, for Jason Hayward, who's been terrible all year long. I didn't even know he was on the Astros. Can I be honest? Can I level with you? I didn't even know he wound up on the Astros. I didn't even know he was still. I thought he retired. I thought he was done.
I believe he not retired.
I thought he did retire.
I think they signed him off the couch. I don't know if he officially had a ceremony and whatever, because everyone knows there's not official paperwork apparently that you fill out to retire. But yeah, so they signed him off the couch. Great story. Listen, I believe he not retired. I think they signed him off the couch. I don't know if he officially like This Houston Astros team, and I'll finish here, of all the Astros teams in the past that have made the playoffs, this Astros team is the most likable. Between all the stories of the wily vets and a couple of young studs, I do actually like this Astros team. I'm not saying I'm going to root for them in all the playoffs, but they're likable.
It's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, Sam. We'll see you back here on Thursday for an all-new Sports Wrap.